All right. Hello, everyone. I guess all of us are visible to all the friends who are participating in this webinar. My name is Yashwant Deshmukh. I'm from India. And this session is particularly keeping in mind, I hope, Senia, you want to start with the first introduction thing, and then I will take over. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Yashwant.
Yes.
So welcome everyone to our webinar. This webinar is a part of the WAPOR webinars program, webinar series that is organized by the WAPOR Education Committee. Within the framework of this program, we have 3 types of webinars. We have thematic webinars, we have methodological webinars, and also webinars with a regional focus, or those which are co-organized with our regional chapters. In this case, today we'll be focusing on Asia and the Asian elections. Our webinars are open to all interested researchers, public opinion pollsters, regardless of your status in the WAPOR membership. But of course, we use this occasion to invite you to explore the WAPOR website and consider joining the World Association for Public Opinion Research as a member. All our webinars are recorded, and the video is later available via the WAPOR YouTube channel and also shared via the WAPOR website. Thank you very much for joining us today and enjoy the webinar. Over back to you, Yash.
Thank you, Senia. And I must appreciate that ever since Senia has taken over the command of the office, the webinars are much more streamlined in process and at a much better frequency, I must say. So thank you for that as well, Senia. I really appreciate your efforts in this. Friends, as you know, 2024 is called election year of sort, because we know more than 60 democracies across the globe are already have gone in the process, or in the last few days of this month are undergoing the same process. Probably never in the history of mankind have such a mammoth portion of our humanity has used the ballot, if it may be said in that way. So it's a historic year, and I think all of us researchers, I guess we should be considering ourselves lucky to be there. It's one of those years which go in your diary as that, okay, I was there at that point of time when this year happened. And yes, and it also fortunately brings a new angle for all of us to analyze, not just our own individual backyards, but the context of our regional backyards and the global positioning, because oddly enough, as the elections are becoming localized, more and more localized, the learnings from elections are becoming more and more globalized. That's the classical part of it. I guess that in the last few decades, it has been the other way around. Election was seen as more globalized and lessons were learned localized. But this year marks a massive change in that particular direction. So the way we are going to start is that we'll give 10 minutes for each of our participants to basically speak, and then we are looking forward to about half an hour of interaction. All our participants are free to actually put the questions in text over here. We will make sure that they appear, they are asked, and they are answered by the webinar panel speakers. So the first one on the panel is Bilal Gilani. Bilal, as most of us know, has the responsibility of running Gallup Pakistan, and it's an institution itself, which was founded by our dear friend Dr. Izaz Gilani. And what an institution that he has created, because as the saying goes, that the pollsters, what we do, public opinion pollsters, are the history writers of tomorrow, has been already said that many a times. whatever data we are collecting actually gives a context to the future historians. And from that context, Dr. Izaz Gilani's work as Gallup Pakistan has been monumental. So Bilal, I mean, it's all 10 minutes of yours. We would love to see the insight, hear the insights, what you have got from Pakistan this time.
Thank you so much, Yash, for the introduction, and looking forward to presenting. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much for an opportunity to present. And Pakistan just went through an election cycle early this year, so February 2024. This was the 12th general election in the country, the first one being in 1970, and since onward in this particular time period. So the agenda for me is to basically quick glance at the numbers which the election unfolded, and looking at the 2024 elections in the broader context of what it means for voting behavior in the country, and what Pakistan's 2024 election means for democracy in general in the country itself. So a few numbers. There is always this discussion in the country about how strong the Pakistani democracy is, and how transparent and how engaged the elections were. And from a few yardsticks, including the turnout, for example, so the 2024 election had about 48% turnout. This was 1% higher than the average over the previous time periods or the previous 11 elections average. But this was lower than the election in 2020, in 2018. So here you can see the elections and the turnouts across. It is a break from the previous times. The since 1997 election, the turnouts had been increasing, but recent two election cycles seem to have put a stop to the increase in turnout. When we see some of the reasons that in the coming slides. One of the reasons of the increasing turnout over the past 30 years is more and more women are participating in the elections, and this is a continued trend here as well. Despite this, the turnout in the country for males and for female voters is different. There is a close to 9% gender gap in the current election. And it varies across different provinces, and it is as high as 16% in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa district province, which is adjoining Afghanistan, where only 31% of the female voters had actually casted their vote. So although there is an improvement, and this is part of the story of how elections and the outcomes are changing, that more and more women are participating, but there is still a gap in the country. Just a few numbers. So, as you know, Pakistan is a parliamentary democracy, and for most of the time, two political parties have dominated the Pakistan People's Party, uh, which I mean, in the broader scheme of things, is the left of center secular party, and Pakistan Muslim League, which is now called Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, which is center right party. And the recent two election cycles have seen a third entrant in the form of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, led by the former cricketer Imran Khan. So these three political parties together now in the 2018 elections had dominated the election landscape. So PTI before the elections had a serious dispute with the establishment in the country, the military in the country, and was, I mean, for a year period, was disallowed to be free to freely participate in the election. And among the different tactics that were used was that it was denied the symbol. So all the PTI candidates were not able to contest on the PTI symbol, but were independent essentially, and therefore this in the table you can see independent slash PTI. So that was a major hurdle, and despite that major hurdle, the PTI dominated and was able to get the highest vote share. So 31% of the vote share went to PTI, followed by 24% to PMLN, and then People's Party at 14%. The other list of parties are either religious parties or regional parties, but they are very, very small in number. The outcome of the election in terms of the voting share we saw, but how did the seats in the National Assembly change? So there was a major increase for Pakistan Muslim League and in terms of the seats, a major decline in the a major decline for PTI in terms of the seats. But the overall the vote share has not changed significantly. PTI lost only 1%, PMLN only lost 1%, People's Party gained 1%. So this is all in the context of a major accusation by the PTI that their voters were not allowed to participate, as well as a large scale allegation of electoral manipulation on the election day itself. But the accusations stand contested and are in various forms of the court system as well as the political arena. But the pre and the post election surveys, although show a discrepancy between the election day and the election outcome, the in terms of the vote share, there seems to have been not a major deviation from what the surveys were predicting before and after. And the fact that PTI remains as the largest political vote share gatherer in this particular environment. In the largest province, which is Punjab, which dominates almost 50% of the seats, again, there was a tough competition between PTI and PMLN in terms of the vote share, as well as a contested large contestation on a number of seats. So the margin of victory remained very, very low. So in Punjab, the main province in the country, the contestation was very, very competitive. And despite the PTI having a larger vote share, they were able to, the PMLN was able to get more seats than PTI, and therefore was able to form the government in the largest particular province. The overall the context of this 2024 election is in the context of previous 2 or 3 election cycles in which the largest 2 political parties, the Pakistan Muslim League Noon and People's Party, are shedding their vote share. So there's an already happening decline in the long run. So if you look at this particular chart, the PMLN has as high as 48% of the entire vote bank in Punjab. And it has now, in this particular election cycle, come down to in the international arena, it had 48% of the vote bank, and in the 2024 election, it has come down to 25%. So it is a decline in the largest political party. This is also not just in the national political sphere, it's in Punjab as well. It has come down from its 63% share of votes in 97 to as low as 35%. So PMLN is on a decline regardless of any accusations of rigging in its favor. It is a declining party. It is declining not just in Punjab, it's also declining in the neighboring KP province, where it had a significant share, so a part of the KP province. And even in Lahore, which is considered as the hub of the Sharif family, which dominates the PMLN, the vote share has just come down almost half. And in the 2024 election, the results were actually split between the PTI and the PMLN. So PMLN is on a decline. People's Party has seen that decline happen for itself. So in the 1977 election, it had close to 60% vote share, and now it is down to as low as 13%. So the largest 2 political parties are declining, and therefore this reduction has created space for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, And as well as for another political party, which is the religious far right kind of extremist ideology, which is the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. So there is the elections basically show a realignment of politics happening in the country, and it seems that this realignment has not just has not come to a halt. So when we ask the voters about if there is a need for a new political party, there is a very large number of people who still say that they're not satisfied with the options that they currently have. So there is a change happening in the politics in the country, and the change has many drivers, including the fact that the youth in the country, which is typically 18 to 30 in our context, has started to vote in a major way. So we've been tracking in our exit polls the voter turnout by different age groups, and traditionally the youth age gap was as high as almost half of the adult vote of the total national turnout. And in the 2024 election, there was almost negligible difference between the youth and the national turnout. And this major change in the youth and the fact that the youth is voting for the third option, which is the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, has actually created this major environment. The other major difference is the fact that there is the youth which is educated has decided to vote in an absolutely different direction. So the new party, the PTI, has an overwhelming edge in that particular constituency. And since the 2013 election, the Pakistan Muslim League N has been losing in that particular segment of the population. So the age and which is the youth and the education is a major driving factor in changing Pakistan's political landscape, and the death of the two major political parties and the rise of at least two political parties led by the PTI and the TNP. It's also a third major driver is the fact that people are no longer voting on lines that they used to. So when we ask people if they voted along the lines of Baradri, so the Baradri is losing or the clan group is losing significance. So people are voting not for within the political within their own clan, but also voting outside. Um, and the decision making of how people vote. So traditionally, people would join together and vote for one particular group. So within the clan, there is now a disagreement, and it seems that the individual behavior is becoming more important than the group behavior. So the society is now increasingly polarized around age, education, and income, and the tide is only getting rough every election cycle, and therefore you see a lot of contestation on the election results because the election results are now polarizing the society in itself. So a few takeaways. The identity politics seems to be at play in the country. So people are no longer very interested in the development talks. So the old political parties would talk about economic benefits. The new political parties are talking about giving the voters an identity. They're talking about religion. They're talking about other populist slogans. And the fact that the voters essentially want a change. So anything to do with the legacy is frowned upon and is contesting. And these are some of those drivers of change in the country and for democracy in general in Pakistan and the future of democracy. And 2024 has seen a mixed behavior in terms of the fact that the electoral manipulation by the establishment continued, but at the same time, it's the establishment's overall agenda of creating a government of its own liking that was in a major way defeated by young, educated, urban classes in the country, and therefore it bodes well for the future of democracy in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bilal. We are going to take the questions in the last. I mean, so please feel free to type in your questions for every panelist which you are listening to. We will take care of that after that. Next speaker is our friend Sadul Haq from Bangladesh. As all of us know, particularly in South and Southeast Asia, we have seen a bit too many dramatic turn of events. Some elections happening, like just now Bilal said about Pakistan, where the main party was, the symbol was taken away from them, and they were still, with independent and all different symbols, they managed to become the single largest party. Their leader is still in the jail. Bangladesh has a different story to tell because after one election victory, the following two elections, the major opposition party just boycotted. So it became a one-way traffic. And most recently, there was a transition in government, not so democratic, but not so undemocratic as well, as many would argue. But certainly, it's a turmoil and a transition in taking in place. And so how democracy can go through this, and how the data exactly is telling us what exactly it is telling us, how the people of Bangladesh are looking at the events. Sadhu, all yours. Please go ahead. You are muted, Sadhu. Can you please unmute yourself?
Thank you, Yash. Let me share my presentation first. Is it share option is open? Yeah. Are you seeing this, my presentation? It's okay?
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Okay. This is my outline. As you see this, I will say something about this Bangladesh. In my view, many of you don't know where is Bangladesh. So I am trying to give you some thought that where we are. We are basically in between India. You see, India is surrounded by three sides. This is Bangladesh. And we have border with Myanmar also. Nearest is Nepal and Bhutan. There is a chicken lake, we call it. It's very few miles apart between Bangladesh and these two countries. And you can see the China, the biggest size. This is the densely populated country. It's a very small country, riverine country. It's a lot of river. And we have about 3,453 people per square mile. It's the eighth largest population in the world. And we have only a 50,000 to 59 square miles country. Bangla is our main language, and 91% is Muslim population and mostly rural population. And we have a unitary parliamentary republic, and we have one house legislator. We call it Jatiyo Sangsad, meaning national parliament. And this JS has 350 members. Out of them, 300 members are directly elected, and 50 are elected, is reserved for the women. The 300 members elect them. The country is headed by a parliament, as it's a parliamentary system. The president is the head of the government, and prime minister is the prime minister is the head of government. President is the head of the state. We have unofficial two-party system. This two-party is dominating in the Bangladesh scenario. Is Bangladesh Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. There is another party, that is Jatiyo Party, which has gained electoral success after BNP boycotted the election in several times. There are about 30 to 40 active political parties in Bangladesh. A brief history. As I said, there are two main parties. Bangladesh Awami League, headed by Sheikh Hasina. She is the daughter of independence leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And the other one is headed by Khaleda Zia. She is the prominent independence fighter, General Ziaur Rahman. Both parties are highly centralized. Third largest parties, Jatiyo Party, also centralized. They don't elect their party leadership democratically. In terms of the ideology, they differ very little. Awami League is slightly left-leaning and BNP is again slightly right-leaning. As said, then in 1978, I don't know, many of you know that Bangladesh was part of Pakistan. So the first election faced by Bangladeshi people was in 1970, after 23 years of independence of Pakistan. In that election, both Pakistan, East Pakistan, at that time, Bangladesh was called East Pakistan, and Pakistan was called West Pakistan. So in that election, Bangladesh Awami League from East Pakistan got 160 seats in the National Assembly, and the President Yahya Khan of Pakistan refusing to hand over the power to the Awami League. As a result, there was a historical turn of events, and after 9 months of bloody war, Bangladesh became an independent country. And in these 53 years after that, Bangladesh had 12 parliamentary elections. And this is, as I said, is a multi-party parliamentary system. We had election under presidential system, 4 election, and rest 8 was under parliamentary system. Ban and boycotts is the characteristics of Bangladesh election and politics. As I mentioned earlier, that only 4 of Bangladesh 12 election may be considered as free and fair. Rest are is with lots of violence, protest, allegation of vote rigging, etc. In 2024, this year, we had election. It's the 12th parliamentary election. But again, major political party boycotted that election. And this election is highly confrontational, centralized, and acrimonious politics. So, out of that 12 election, as I said, that 4 was considered free and fair. I will discuss about this 4 election only, and rest I will just touch upon. You can see this 1991, 96, 2001, and 2008. This 4 election was considered free and fair, reasonably free and fair. In 1991, this election was held after a mass upsurge by the public, ousted to the military government led by the General Ershad. And in that election, about 75 parties participated. About 55% voter has turnout, and BNP won the election with 146. And Awami League got 88 seats. This election was held under caretaker government headed by immediate past Chief Justice. 1996 also was free and fair. About 81 parties participated in the election, and about 75% people voted in that election. Okay. Awami League got to win the election with 146, and BNP got 118 seats. It's very competitive. These 3, 2001 and 96, 91 is very competitive election. When there is a free and fair election in Bangladesh, this picture will come out. And you can see that BNP won 91, Awami League got 1996, again BNP won 2001, and Awami League got 2008. Regarding the 2008, this election was held by a military-backed government. And we had a scheduled election in 1996, but there was 2 elections in 1996. That 6th parliament, it was dissolved within 12 days and introduced a new caretaker government system headed by the immediate past Chief Justice. It was amended, included in the constitution that the election, during the election, how the immediate past government will resign and the new government will come into the power with the immediate past Chief Justice. So that's why 3 election was held with the immediate past Chief Justice, and one last election was held again in the caretaker government backed by the military government. Now let me discuss when that 4th election was held with the caretaker government. If there is no caretaker government, what is happening? You can see the 2014, 2018, and 2024. All this election was highly controversial, irregular, grossly manipulated. Awami League got 234 seats, only 12 parties participated in this election. All the leading political parties boycotted this election. Even 153 seats, MPs got elected before the election is over. Even before the election is held. So government was virtually formed before the election. 2018, again, all the parties participated. That's why you can see 51 party participated in the election. About 18% people voted. But problem is that the election was held overnight, just one day before the election. So all the ballot paper was stopped and everything was with the help of administration and political parties, government parties. In 2014, again, all the parties boycotted the election. About 28 parties participated in this election. Technically, about 10 to 12% people voted in this election, last election, this year election. Though Bangladesh Election Commission initially said that it is about 20%, then later they changed their mind and declared 42% people participated in this election. So obviously, Awami League, the government got 91% votes. This interesting point is that there are 62 independent candidates, but these 62 candidates are Bangladesh Awami League Party members. So basically, they got 286 seats in this election. So it's highly controversial. This after this election, you can see that after the Bangladesh Awami League elected in 2008 election, they eliminated the caretaker government system from the constitution. As a result, the political chaos started again, and all the election was held, the one-sided, with most of the parties was absent. Even the people did not vote. All the figures, the voting turnout are manipulated. Even I could not vote after 2006. Probably 2006 was my last vote, and I could not vote because somebody else has voted for me. It's very nice of them to vote for me. I did not need to go to the election voting center. So that was the things. In 2014, as I say, 2014 and 2024, virtually no political party participated in the election. 2008, again, all parties participated in the election, but the voting was held overnight. A few months before the election, the leadership of the main political parties was put behind the bars with a lot of court cases. Meanwhile, in July, this summer, the student initiated a massive protest demanding removal of quota system in the government job, which later turned into a mass movement for the resignation of the government, mass killing, high prices of essential, massive corruption comes in their demand list. And Bangladesh government among Awami League government, their party activists and police responded to the student protest violently. They called even border force, Rapid Action Battalion, Bangladesh Army to control the situation, but they could not control. Meanwhile, about 1,500 people got killed, thousands of children, students, rickshaw pullers, and others got injured. At a certain point, Bangladesh Army refused to open fire on the students and public and withdrew their support from Sheikh Hasina government. And finally, Sheikh Hasina fled to India on 5th August. Since then, she is staying there. Subsequently, Parliament was dissolved and interim government has formed on 8th August. After Sheikh Hasina fled to India, Nobel laureate Dr. Muhammad Yunus formed an interim government on invitation from the student leadership and civil societies. An advisory council was formed with the, technically, basically the retired force. They are really seeking to grasp that independence spark. They want to bring democracy back in the country. It is largely a technocratic interim government. They want to bring back accountability and reform, lead to election, and garner political legitimacy in Bangladesh. The interim government has already initiated few reforms, including modification, amendment of the Constitution, Election Commission of Bangladesh. They have formed several task forces for the reform of the electoral system, legal and judicial system, civil administration, banking and finance, etc. These reforms are considered essential as ousted regime has politicized and corrupted all of them during their long tenure, about 15 years. Bangladesh Election Commission is already being reconstituted and new voter list expected to be presented by them in early 2025. New Election Commission is already formed, as I said, and we are expecting an election sometimes in mid or end 2025. As I said, after 2008, there was virtually no pre-election polls. So it's difficult to say. But there are several public opinion polls, many public opinion polls. And our company, SRGB, conducted pre-election poll in 2008, last year. But we conducted 2 to 3 public opinion polls almost every year during that time. I'm giving you some facts about an election public opinion poll held in early 2023. You can see most of the people, majority people says country is heading in wrong direction. Non-participatory election falls short of public expectation. Democracy is very bad or somewhat bad. Expression of political opinion, very and somewhat afraid. Opposition popularity is growing, and its calls for a caretaker government are breaking through. Election results should not stun because not all parties participated. Citizen political interest is growing, but the faith in democratic institutions remains low. Economy would get worse in the year ahead, and violence would worsen in the upcoming year. Major driver of this negative indicator is basically the political instability created during this period, during last 15, 16 years. My last slide is the democracy in Bangladesh, the road ahead. Originally, Bangladesh touted as model for democracy in the developing world. Bangladesh is one of the few Muslim majority countries that has had subsequential experience with procedural democracy. In 1991 to 2008, Bangladeshi politics was defined by intense competition between the Bangladesh Awami League and Bangladesh Nationalist Party. As you see in 1991, 1996, 2001, 2008, both parties enjoyed successive rotation in government during the countries during this time. But this was halted again by Awami League government when they come to power in 2009. During this period, all the election was corrupt, repressive, and lot of malpractice, judicial harassment, forced disappearance. During this period, the electoral playing field was so severely skewed in favor of the incumbent that the main opposition party set out of national elections. In Bangladesh, political record concurred with the trends during third wave of democratization in 1990s, as well as to reverse wave in 2008. The third wave of autocratization in 2018. Until recently, Hasina regime was well on track to become a consolidated hegemonic autocracy, but it ultimately fell short because it faced a slowing economy, deepening crisis of legitimacy, and critically overstepped on repression, culminating in a powerful bottom-up transition. The reintroduction of a non-partisan category government to oversee election should equilibrate inter-party competition from one-party dominance back into nominality multi-party environment, and national elections are expected to be free, fairer than in preceding decades. A strong appetite for democracy, including the willingness of rival parties to oppose a ban, Bangladesh Awami League ban, and the interim government to accept media scrutiny are positive signs that democratic values are being normalized and upheld through mutual consensus. So that's it from me. Let's go for the next.
Thank you. Thank you, Sadul. That was very, very comprehensive, and I'm sure it will give our colleagues the idea of where it has started and where it is going, because, you know, the transitions, particularly in democracy, are sometimes messy, but still they are important, seen as an intervention directly from the public. And another, you know, that kind of intervention that we have seen in recent past is in Sri Lanka, actually. And that's where our colleague Pradeep is coming from, because in Sri Lanka, I think it's ironical to actually compare the two, Pradeep, because regardless of the status of democracy under Sheikh Hasina, ironical thing is that the democracy, the economy of the country grew in a very strong situation, and she started feeling the heat only in the recent year when the economic downturn happened. The inflation skyrocketed, and that's where she started feeling the heat. And something of that sort happened in Sri Lanka as well, because the transition in Sri Lanka, almost like the street transition that we have witnessed recently in Dhaka, Colombo also witnessed the similar kind of transition, and that to overturning a really popular mandated government. You know, the guys who were overturned they actually had one election fair and square in that way, and they were popular till the point of time Sri Lankan economy took a downturn, and then everything went south. So it's a very fascinating way to compare the two and understand how exactly the trends in economy actually crossroad or crosswire with the trends in democratization, and where it extends to what. So Pradeep, the floor is all yours to tell us about what has happened in Sri Lanka and how we are looking at with all these trends which are coming from the regions, and like you know, what Sadul explained to us and how Bilal explained to us. So we are pretty much a region, or this part of the world seems to be pretty much in a very classic transitional phase as far as the democratization is concerned. Pradeep, over to you.
Thank you, Yash. The Sri Lankan case is very different to the Pakistan and Bangladesh, because, you know, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation today. So I'm going to make my presentation without PowerPoint. So I want to be very different.
No problem. Just tell us the story. We are all ears for your story. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. And I'll try to like in my when I'm concluding, I will try to like get back to the kind of a larger question you posed, Yash. I think I would like to start the presentation with a very good note. What we have experienced, what we have seen this year, one can characterize it as a kind of a tectonic shift in Sri Lankan politics. And while we are experiencing many disturbing election experience across the world, in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even in Western Europe, but Sri Lanka, we basically exhibited extremely mature democratic character with this election. Zero violence, almost no violence. I mean, it is characterized as like, all the observers, free observers, independent observers, as one of the most non-violent, fair, free election in the at least the contemporary history in Sri Lanka. That's number one. Number two, this non-violent victory has contributed to kind of massive tectonic shift in Sri Lankan politics. Massive. I mean, massive in terms of the magnitude, and also in terms of its character and its content. Now, as far as the magnitude is concerned, like this election produced a government with 159 seats out of 225 parliamentary seats. It's far more than two-thirds majority. Any regime would, dream to enjoy in a parliament where it will give you kind of a blank check, right? This was the first time in Sri Lankan democratic history of one single party, by the way, one single party managed to receive that kind of a gigantic political support, right? Number two. And also, this support was not basically was given to a traditional political groups or political parties who enjoy this political power in the post-independence Sri Lanka. This was given to a group of a particular new group of political class who only had 3 seats in the previous parliament. So it's a kind of such a leap from 3 seats to 159 seats. Unbelievable. Like, I mean, you can't, political party theory may not really explain this kind of a shift. And also, this new group fought election on an entirely different format compared to the traditional political parties in Sri Lanka, right? Now, let me give you a bit of a background about the Sri Lankan political history. I mean, Sri Lanka, we refer to ourselves as the oldest democracy in South Asia, given the fact that we started enjoying universal franchise in Sri Lanka 17 years before we received the independence from British colonial government. I mean, since 1931, Sri Lankan men and women, they enjoy universal franchise. I mean, in Great Britain, women enjoyed the franchise back in 1928. In France, women enjoy franchise back in 1946, somewhere around that. But Sri Lankan women and men, they enjoy universal franchise since 1931. So, and since 1948, that the year that we received the independence from British colony, through and through, Sri Lankan power shifts took place through the ballots, not through any other means. So we had a very vibrant democratic history, despite having had many uprising, terrorist issues, insurgencies, all sort of crises. But since 1940s, particularly 1950s, Sri Lankan political power was, always enjoyed by this two groups, because we had a two-party system earlier, two-party system, because our electoral system was first past the post system, and our party system was very much of a kind of a bipolar multi-party system. Always there was two parties. They were forming, a government time to time. The minor parties, smaller parties, basically rotates around with these larger two big players and form coalition, either pre-election coalition or otherwise post-election coalition to form government. But since 1978, Sri Lanka, we had a new constitution, new electoral process, new parliamentary system. We introduced executive presidency, unlike in India. We had a bicameral system like in India till 1970s. But 1978, we had a new constitution where we introduced a very powerful position called executive president, somewhat similar to the French model. Basically, he consolidate and he basically, centralized state power under him. And then you have a parliament. So usually the president who president who the party that produced the presidency or captured the presidency has always a chance of capturing the political the parliamentary majority, because that position is so powerful. Often parties exploited that. And also 1978 we introduced something called proportional representative electoral system. So that system, in a way, democratically, it's a leap towards the right direction, but it has introduced so much of complications. And also, as a result of those complications, it has also exacerbated the corruption, all sort of complications. But as a result, no government managed to produce clear majority in the parliament. So it has pushed the main parties to seek coalition alliances to secure this parliamentary power. So up until this year, all the successive governments, they enjoy the parliament power through this pre or post-election coalition. And as a result, our political party system, our political culture happened to be very much of a patronage, more of a, and one can characterize it as kind of a patronage democracy, in a way where the group of elite runs the country by distributing various perks to the citizens. So that kind of system. So our political system produce a kind of a corrupt political culture. In that corrupt political culture, not only the politicians are corrupt, who basically, once they're in power, they basically use government various schemes to really become rich, steal money and sustain their own network, and thereby to secure their electability. All these things were there. As a result, no politician took any wise decision, because wise decision will always work against them at the election period. So as a result, Sri Lankan political class continue to sustain, they nurture this corrupt political culture. Because on the other hand, because people also really enjoy and also they expected this kind of corrupt political culture, because this is an election time, is a time for it's a Christmas time for voters, citizens. I mean, they basically to get their jobs, so get various perks. They use election time to bargain with the ruling parties and get certain things done. So these two groups in this whole process of democracy, where the citizens as well as the rulers, they were entangled in a kind of a corrupt political culture. So in that culture, continue to reproduce more serious, kind of political culture that undermine good governance, undermine democracy, undermine accountability, and cultivate very much of a kind of the patient-client relationship. Now, this has a very important thing which I will come back again to when I'm answering Yashwan's questions. But before that, to say that now this is this election was a very serious departure from this political culture. Having 3 seats in the parliament, they basically contested election completely against this political culture. They were very vocal, very explicit about they are fighting against corruption. Not only fighting against corruption. I mean, every politician says that they are fighting against corruption, but the entire electoral process was completely free from this patronage network politics. In Sri Lankan democracy since 1948, the elections was very much influenced and run on 2 main categories, 2 main inducement. One is that the patronage-based political, politics. The other one was very much of a ethnic identity-based nationalistic politics. So up until this year, the best successful politicians are the ones who distributed the maximally and also who basically propagated this hatred, nationalism, things like that. So this is the first time we have experienced a party, a group of people, they came to election platform, completely denouncing these ideas and also denouncing the practice, do away with that practice. They managed to get unbelievable majority in this election. So now how come? So that's also explained to a certain extent what Yashwan raised. There's an economic factor in elections. Now, I think Sheikh Hasina's election followed by, it basically, it led to a kind of a popular uprising. But whereas in Sri Lankan elections, this victory was followed by popular uprising. 2022, we had something extremely democratic experience where the majority of the huge numbers of Sri Lankan from every single corner, they walked into the roads. They basically protested against the incumbent, and they really wanted the president to resign. And as Yash very correctly pointed out, that was also one of the most powerful regime we had in our history. The then president was the most popular president, most powerful president. Most like people thought that who was the most toughest guy that we have ever produced. But then 2022, when the country has really collapsed, the economy was really bankrupt. When there is no fuel, there's no essential food. People have to stand in the line to get a few liters of fuel. That really hit the the real mindset of people. People thought, okay, enough is enough. We all this time we tolerated this whole corrupt political culture. We knew that this was sliding towards disaster, but we never thought that is this kind of thing possible. So they came to road, and they rejected not only the former president and his power, his government and his family, but also they rejected the old political culture and the political class. They really wanted to get rid of that 225 parliamentarian, irrespective of their party. Because they thought that politicians together, since independence, they basically they are equally responsible for bringing that kind of misery to the country. So that misery was a result of the economic, not only because of the economic mismanagement. Of course, there's a clear economic mismanagement. There's so much of issues in terms of the dealing with the economy. But the mother of all evils, even the economic problem, economic issue, the paradox was a result of the particular political paradox. The kind of a patronage, the crony capitalism that we had, every politician, ruling party had to sustain and even to expand the patronage system like that kind of politics, distributing welfare even without having income. Because I mean, since 1950s, the balance sheet was like there was a deficit through and through, and this deficit continued to expand because we consume so much more than we produce. I mean, Sri Lanka is a country which we produce. We hardly produce, but we consume as much as first world country. So that has basically widened the gap in our import gap. And that has basically led to kind of financial disaster. We knew that, every politician knew that, but nobody could manage to change it because the particular culture, within the political culture, changing that course is suicidal. So that led to a crisis, and the people came together and they said that no, enough. Now we need a change. So it was such a powerful event, powerful experience. One of the most powerful president we ever produced, he had to fled the country and resign. We never had experienced something like that. But then what happened, at the ruling party, they basically manipulate the parliament, and they really argue that no, all those political changes should happen within the parliament. Let's try to sort it out in the parliament. By saying that, they basically brought some stability to the whole political classes back in 2022, somewhere around July, August, September. And they continue for next 2 years. And they stabilize the economy, not that they have improved the economy. They basically stopped that, sliding part. And by bringing lots of import restriction, things like that, and imposing huge amount of taxes on average people, particularly on poor. And now this is the context within which the election took place. And the current government, they capitalized this sentiment of the average people, and they basically put forward their agenda, manifestos, and also their political structure very much in line with the desire of the majority at the time. So that is what basically paved the way for this kind of massive victory. Now, I don't know how long this victory, we can really enjoy this victory, but clearly this is an unbelievable opening for Sri Lanka's democracy. So we are in a position now, if we want, we can sign up for new social contract and come up with a much more stronger democratic constitution that will not only ensure our liberties but also equality and more egalitarian society. So this is what the Sri Lankan election has produced. We have 17 million voters and 76% turnout at the last election. So this is extremely a positive story about Sri Lankan democracy. But Sri Lankan, democracy is not a kind of a fixing business. Unless people continue to fight on this, we will not be able to retain this. One simple thing about the public opinion in Sri Lanka, and there were many polls also before the election, and almost all the polls went wrong. There was a reason why, because Sri Lankan, for some reason, I have been noticing it for so many years. Pollings are hardly to understand the reality, but largely to influence the public opinion. Because Sri Lankan politicians always looking for more shortcuts, simple solution. Rather than learning and responding to that. So as a result, some of the pollsters have turned out to be a clown, because they basically produce what the politician wanted to have it. I myself helped a group of people who were doing polling for the current government, designing their sample and things like that. But that was done without any publicity, and results were pretty modest. But even there, we didn't see that this kind of a huge, shift. So with this, I will conclude. I'm really thankful to everyone, Bilal, and also Yashwan, for inviting me for this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you so much. And it's really fascinating to see that there are some kind of connections of, the out of the box solution that Sri Lankans voted in. I guess in Bilal's case, they actually experienced it in the name of Imran Khan. But then he ran into military establishment, and they are having a different kind of, democratic problem, because I think establishment is not allowing people to have democracy, and people are still voting. Can you imagine a party without a symbol still manages to feel independent and manages to become the single largest party, and still the guy is in jail? So that's a different kind of a problem. And Sri Lanka, as you Pradeep very, very clearly mentioned, that yes, unlike Bangladesh, where she won a mandate once, but people actually boycotted two elections, and she won in a very authoritarian way, and then people voted, basically on the street, removed her. In case of Sri Lanka, they actually removed a president which they had so popularly elected first, in the very first place. And then they had to come out on the street, and they removed it. And then, an out of the box candidate, which is challenging the institutions, and, is winning. So, yeah, all sort of things, see how many things are kind of, we are looking at from perspectives that in democracies and the transitions, in one way or the other, are affecting each other. Of course, Sri Lanka seems to have got something which is stabilizing their case now. I hope the economy stabilizes. I hope Bangladesh also gets to the same kind of track, back on track, because at the end of the day, no matter what, it still happens to be an unelected government in place right now. I wish their government, their elections happen very soon. Nuruddin, you asked that you wanted to do, you had a call. Are you ready for your presentation, or should I go ahead and present something on India, and after that you would be like doing that? Nuruddin?
Maybe you should go around.
All right. So, yeah, because he messaged that something had come up, so he would like to present in the last. All right. So, that brings our case to India, and we had election this year, of course, yes. Almost 900 million voters were pretty much in the line to vote, and almost 670 million people voted. So that makes the mother of all elections exercises. And as many of you might have known that, the party BJP of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they did manage to win the election, but their majority was curtailed. So they are still in power, but by courtesy of many of the alliance partners, they lost their majority on their own. That's a different thing. But that doesn't mean that they are not in power. They are comfortably in power because of their coalition partners. But their numbers did come down, and that was after a gap of 10 years. So oddly enough, we have experienced that Indian elections, largely in the last few decades, were a story of how the anti-incumbency is growing, and it's getting in place. And this is a data which I just love to cite, particularly in case of electronic voting machines, because India uses EVMs, as you all know, not the paper ballots. And we introduced EVM in 1998, and before that, all the elections used to happen on paper ballots. So funny combination is that from 1951-52 to 1998, on the paper ballot, all the elections produced actually more than 90% pro-incumbent verdicts. And after 1998, when the electronic voting machines were introduced, till date, almost 90%, more than 90% election results have been anti-incumbent. That means people have been voted out of power. So the question still remains that is the electronic voting machine, catching up people's anger, people's vote properly to kick out the people in power? Yes, they are doing fascinatingly well in that one. However, in the last 20 years, we are also witnessing a counter trend of CEO-style chief ministers and prime ministers who are working well getting rewarded by getting re-elected by the people. So it's a pro-incumbency, but a different twist in a way. And all of a sudden we are witnessing, because when I used to study, when I used to do polling in US and, particularly, I was always fascinated by the fact that big number of representatives in their parliament, in their capital, they used to get re-elected 5, 6, 7, 8 times. But in case of India, when I used to microscopically look at the data, at the seat level, the sitting representatives, regardless of the party, regardless of the election, almost 2/3 of them were kicked out by the people. They were so bad. And so that was a kind of a base that I was coming from. And slowly we are looking at Indian elections where we see many various politicians across the party line working in a very hands-on CEO style structure and delivering governance and getting re-elected. This started particularly with the woman chief minister in the national capital called, her name was Sheila Dikshit. She is no more, but she actually managed to win 3 terms back to back, and she was extremely popular, so popular that even after her death, when we talk about top of the mind recall, of who has been the best chief minister of Delhi, she still scores, yes, the #1 rank, even though she is no more, but she is still scored by the verbatim that, okay, we miss her. That was the best chief minister that we got, kind of thing. So, so that is a new trend that has started coming in. What I will do is that I will show you some of the tracker data and try to explain that beyond this thing, what is the key thing which is turning slowly this governance delivered what shall I say, mandates, where people are re-electing good governance or giving a chance to good governance again. And there is one key set of data which probably is driving all that kind of change. And that is the participation of female voters. Just like Pradeep just mentioned, in India also, right from the day one, we had a universal franchising that, right from the 51 first parliamentary election after our independence, females were free to vote, but their turnout, there was a gender gap in the turnout. Like you remember in the presentation in Bilal's PowerPoint, where he had shown that there is a huge gender gap as far as the female participation of elections in turnout in Pakistan is concerned. There was, for the first 6 decades, there was almost a 10 to 15 point gap between male and female turnout factor. And females were not known to be, females were not really known to be an independent voter of sorts, They used to vote wherever the family members were voting, or the dad is voting, or the husband is voting. And it's like it used to be more of a family vote rather than their individual vote. That has started to change slightly in the last 20 years. The turnout started going up. So in the late 90s, this thing started. And in the first 10 years of this century, we witnessed the gap started reducing as far as the gap of male-female turnout was concerned. And around 2014, 2012 onwards, actually, many states, they started overturning this gap. That means more females were voting than the males. And between 14 and 24, this started as a national trend line. And now for sure, every election that we are witnessing, female voters are actually outperforming in turnout their male voter counterparts. So that is the one big change started happening. And maybe, I'm right now putting up a case where this pro-incumbency sentiment of governance delivery and the female participation has started around the same time. So there has to be a correlation. There is a correlation, but that correlation started in contrast just a year back in a much more profound way. So we have a huge state called Madhya Pradesh, which is central India, where the BJP was in power for almost like 20 years, and it was the fourth term in power, which they were going to ask for. And huge anti-incumbency was building up because obviously some party being in power for 20 long years, 20, 25 long years, then obviously the things in democracy start churning by. And then this gentleman who was the chief minister, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, he launched a scheme as a last-ditch effort to turn the tables. That scheme was called Ladli Behan Yojana, that's my beloved sister scheme, which was a scheme of a direct cash transfer, direct cash benefit to the female voters in their state for their economic freedom, for their getting a direct cash instead of various subsidies here and there. And that was the first, on record direct cash benefit transfer scheme launched by a government for aiming at female voters. And what happened after that was historic, because from an election which was almost lost, within a matter of few months, things turned and Shivraj Singh Chauhan made a spectacular victory for the BJP, winning an unprecedented mandate by courtesy of female voters. Now, all of us, we were watching this, but because it has happened for the first time, we were still not very sure. So in 1 year back, that election was rather taken as a fluke, that he tried something with the female voters, a scheme. It was a fluke because Congress was not in a position to do something better as a main opposition. They kind of gave away the election. They did not contest well, wrong candidates. So there were a zillion options that were available to do the post-mortem of why Congress lost and why BJP won Madhya Pradesh again. But what happened after the parliamentary elections, there were 3 major states where in the parliamentary election this June, the ruling party actually got battered in the parliamentary election. So BJP actually faced huge problem in the states of Maharashtra, in the states of Haryana, and one of the opposition party which was ruling Jharkhand, they faced a huge problem over there in parliamentary election. And from June to right now in November, December, these state assemblies went to elections, and these election results have kind of thoroughly kind of uprooted the age-old equations of voting parities and like that, because these results were completely opposite of the election results which we saw in the parliamentary election results for these parties. And the only difference between these two elections were that all these 3 state chief minister and the parties actually announced the same kind of a scheme which Madhya Pradesh party launched, a direct cash benefit transfer to the female voters. In each of these elections, the moment this scheme was launched, the female participation in the election went up, and it swung the election in favor of the ruling party, which promised and was delivering governance and direct cash benefit transfer to the females. Now, as I mentioned that earlier, it was seen as something which was one-off. But now the election result, after the election results, it cannot be seen more of a one-off election result. So this is the Madhya Pradesh. I'm just showing you the tracker data for the last 5 years. And over here, the red line of people who were upset with the government was very high right before the 23 elections. And right after the election, this scheme was launched for female voters, you can see the green line of satisfaction going up, and ever since it has been there. This was the first election of the female turnout factor and direct governance delivery to the female in terms of direct cash benefits to the female account holders, that was concerned. After that, I will just go to the second one because it's one at a time. I'm sorry. Okay. So I hope it's coming on your screen. All right. This is the state of Jharkhand where the opposition party JMM was in place. Now, if you will look into very carefully, this entire graph of the state government performance, you will realize the red line had already taken over in around 21. That means the state government started building up huge anti-incumbency. And from 21, almost right up to the September 18th, this year, people were upset with this government. And if I show you just in the last 1 year what has happened, see from the January right up to the October, this government was losing. And the moment they launched this female-centric scheme, which directly benefited the female voters, and this is how the election swung in the last 2 or 1 month, and they came back to power. This was the election just now, which has happened. I mean, just moving back. Now, how much did it change in terms of voter participation? I will show you just to underline the data. I mean, our post-poll research, post-poll survey, exit poll or post-poll survey, as we call it, and you will find it extremely fascinating to see what kind of, this is the male and female voting intention, which I am highlighting right now. NDA is the opposition in Jharkhand. UPA was very much in power there, and they were about to lose big time. And after launching this scheme with just a variation, different name, look at the female differential between NDA and female. Among the male, NDA actually led by 41 to 37%. But among the female, it was just opposite, 42% going to the UPA and 30.5 going to the NDA. So basically, purely on the voting block of the female voters, they just managed to turn around this entire election thing. And the similar kind of a block happened in the huge state of Maharashtra, which went to the election. And Maharashtra became a crazy point for us to study for a simple reason that the BJP lost Maharashtra in the parliamentary election 3-1. I mean, it was a one-sided election with the BJP lost just in June this year. And we were all expecting that opposition is going to win Maharashtra hands down. This is the tracker of Maharashtra performance. And here you can see the red line against the state government, the red line against the chief minister, right up to the continuation of the election. That is the October around. They were in, this is the June. You can see when the parliamentary elections happened, they lost it badly. They were still going to lose the assembly elections badly. And this is where they launched the female-centric scheme. And once they launched the female-centric scheme, the red line you can see going down and down, and the blue line satisfied to some extent going up. So basically the entire anger went down. This black line is right now because the government has just been formed. A new chief minister is in place over there. So that transition is the black, but otherwise the game changer was this particular scheme where it was announced that entire game actually changed. And this game change again was pretty much evident because we wanted to make double sure that, okay, what we are reading is right or we are getting it right. And now I will show you very typically the post-poll numbers, research numbers about the gender application and where exactly gender-wise they voted. Among the female, here NDA was in power and they were trying to win the election again, and UPA was in the opposition. And by the way, UPA had won 3:1 just 5 months back in the parliamentary election. And look at the gap. Among the male, the gap was only 45 to 43. It's a close contest. Among the female, 47 to 31. This was the huge, huge gap that the female-centric turnout and female-centric schemes actually induced in the Maharashtra elections. Now, why me and all other pollsters and other, journalists, everybody are looking at this data now carefully, because we are realizing this could be a turning point for democracy in India. In the last 75 years, we are known to be polling on emotive issues, on the caste lines, religious lines, communal polarization, and whatnot, And the vote banks in India were always looked down upon either on the religion line or the caste line or the community lines or the linguistic lines and so on and so forth. Never at any point of time, female as a vote bank, as a vote catch, was treated in that way. It is for the first time in 75 years. Politicians across the political line, all of a sudden, they have discovered, wow, there is this class of voter who actually is willing to vote for us, not on the emotive and divisive issues, but on governance issues, on a direct cash benefit transfers issues, on the schemes for females issues. And this is something which is going to change elections in India fundamentally, big time fundamentally. We have another major election coming in within a month, that is in our capital, national capital region, Delhi. And the party there is in power is an opposition party, Aam Aadmi Party. They are in power for almost 10 years now. This is their third election in a row. They are trying to win. Huge anti-incumbency they are facing. And guess what? Last night, the chief minister has announced that they are starting a scheme of 1,000 rupees per month to all female voters from the government. And if they get elected, they will increase the amount to 2,000 rupees per month. So it's a direct cash which they have last night they have introduced. And of course, this is going to have, we are going to see now, because this is a factor which we know it has a proven record of impacting 3 elections back to back. And this is the 4th one. Why it is going to be a turning point is for 2 reasons. Number 1, females as a vote bank are voting on issues which are there impacting them, their livelihood, the quality of life for their family, and a direct cash which affects their family life and the well-being of their family. The turnout which they are increasing, and they are out maneuvering the male turnout. So they are now dictating the election, not just the deciding the elections. That's a huge difference. And the third and most important thing which is yet to come is a parliamentary act which has been already passed, and it is going to be applied pretty soon before the next election, general elections in place, that acquires 33% seats reserved for the female politicians. That means all the Indian elections from the next parliamentary election onward will have 33% seats in the house reserved for females only. So there would be female only seat where only all parties will be giving only the female candidates. So look at the pyramid. We are looking at a bottoms-up scenario where female turnout is increasing. Females are deciding the elections as a vote bank. Females are voting on the schemes which are beneficial to their families. They are not voting on emotive issues. And from the top bottom, we are looking at the 1/3, 33% reservation for female that is coming in. And once that happens and that confluence happens, I think you will agree with me that elections in India are not going to be the same after that anymore. There is anecdotal evidence, direct evidence. If you look into all quality of life indicators, better good governance indicators, you will realize that the top 10 countries on those indicators in the world also have maximum female participation, not just in turnout, but also in terms of number of elected female representatives. So there is data which has empirical evidence suggesting that the governance, the objectivity, the transparency, and the quality of life of a country goes up when the female participation in democracy goes up and number of female elected female representatives go up. And this thing is now going to happen in India. And I'm very hopeful. Next 10 years are going to be fascinating for all the scientists here and the colleagues here in India to see the impact of this thing. It's going to be manifold. And we are really, really eager to look forward to that. Thank you very much. Nuruddin, that's from me. Next, you are there. So the floor is all yours to tell us about what you have experienced in Indonesia and what the polling and other studies are telling about the health of democracy in Indonesia. Nuruddin.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for sharing so many things, and I learned so many things from the other countries. And so far, Indonesia is, yeah, as we know that Indonesia is one of the populated countries as well, something like not as big as India, but at least we are in the top 5 of populated countries in global. So far, based on the progress, Indonesia is very well progressed in terms of the democratic, and Indonesia has become the 3rd largest of the democratic countries in the world. But we might need to share the way we run the election and also democracy. So far, the fundamental one was happening in 1998. It was a reformation movement of in terms of the government and leadership in Indonesia, because this has become a really turning point for us. And Indonesia, as we know that participation of the population to the election, etc., and accountability to the way we built the nation is relatively low before that one, because it's very autocratic era before 1998. And this is changed into high participation coming from the public. So this is something that from very limited participation into really free to participate. So it's very, very big change about that one. However, we know that during the democratic framework now, we have several challenges as well, because first is talking about social economic, and this impact also on the corruption issues in Indonesia. This become very big issues. On the social economic, is basically inequality between the rich and also the poor is also becoming a very wide in these today's situations. And in Indonesia, the election we classify into 3 groups. First is talking about we are in the presidential countries, and talking about presidential election. We choose president every 5 years, and legislative election is basically also we doing on 5 years, and it is divided into 3 group. First is talking about a representative council, we call DPR, and regional representative council, and also regional or local, we call local council. And we also have local election, where actually we want basically the objective of this one is we select the candidate for provincial leader or the city major leader. So this is local elections. We did just last month on the local election for this year. On the president, we did early this year. And the structure and timeline, basically, previously we do it separately. We did separately between presidential election and also legislative elections. But now we do it simultaneously. So it just started on 2019, and legislative and presidential election is basically we do it together. The difference is on the what we call is local election. We do it separately and from the presidential and also legislative elections. We just running the election this year, early this year, for the presidential, and this is the way we what we call the roadmap of the elections in Indonesia. So the voters give legislative election and also executive elections. And in the legislative election, we have a national parliament and regional parliament. On the executive election, we select president and also we select also governor or city mayors. So this is so far in summary, the voters give participation to set the leader for this nation actually. So and how who manage the election is one is basically is General Election Commission, we call KPU, and then Election Supervisory Agency, we call Bawaslu, and the Ethical Council, we call BKPP. And this is so far how election system function in Indonesia. And in terms of the electoral process, we do voter registrations. Who is entitled to have a vote? Basically, Indonesian citizens with the age above 17 years old or below 17 years old, but they already married. So it's basically we call is adult. And the voting system, basically we use plurality system for the local election and two-round system for the presidential elections. If no candidate wins over 50%, then we will run against until someone already win above 50%. And the legislative seat allocation, we call DPR seats allocated through proportional representation, with the electoral threshold is 4%. So if the party is only achieving below than 4%, then definitely those parties drop from parliament. So it's only something like today we have 18 parties in Indonesia, but only 8 party is coming to the parliament because only 8 party able to have above 5% electoral threshold. This is the stage of election process. First is talking about vote registration, preparation and planning, candidate registration, campaign period, voting day, vote counting, recapitulation, and result announcement and inauguration. For the presidential and parliament, we did the inauguration just last October. And for the local governor, we still in the stage of result announcement. So it's different between local and central governments, but all the process is following this election process for the central government as well as for the local. In terms of the proportional representative system, we have versus talking about party nomination. Normally, before we come to the election, we already have a party nomination, and we select voter selection and seat allocation by party and candidate selection. And today, all the candidate is already well selected, and for 2024, almost settled. No, it's just waiting for the local election result for the local elections. All those participation is basically public participation. The voter in Indonesia is very high, and around 200 million voters. Basically, we have 80% more participate in the elections. But doesn't mean that the public participation is everything is good, everything is settled. So far, we have still some challenge. First is talking about simultaneous elections. We have reduced administrative costs dramatically, but the challenge is actually we do it nationally together in one time. This is a challenge because we have demographic challenge. We have large archipelago, and we have 17,000 island in Indonesia. So in terms of the logistic, it's really a big challenge for the simultaneous elections. The second one is combating election fraud, because we do it transparencies and anti-corruption measures. But the point is how to monitor and how to evaluate all this one, where actually this is spread out across Indonesia with 17,000 islands. So how to secure all the food is really the food coming from the public. This is really a challenge. The second one is talking about money politic. So it's political money is really also a challenge for that one. And the third one is talking about voter turnout and education. So high turnout and also challenge is remain on the rural for the voter education, because sometimes the voter doesn't know talking who is really the best candidate, who is really good talent to be a parliament representative, because the name sound not really familiar for the people in the rural. So this is something that becomes still limitation for our democratic framework in Indonesia. This is for the presidential election for this year. Out of 200 million, so it's the vote is final vote is 164 million voters. This representing of 81% of the total voters, and the winner is winning with 58%, and the deviation between what we call is the researcher and what we call is private monitoring researcher compared to the official is basically very small, because the difference is only 0.19%. So it means that the accuracy of the monitor is relatively high. And this year, basically Prabowo Gibran, this is the winner, winning with 58%. So it's basically is in one round, no need to be having in a third round. So because Prabowo Gibran win above 50%. So far, in terms of the accuracy in the predicting, this is very high, because repool in Indonesia is quite good so far, with what we call is the deviation between 3 until 5%, and we already able to predict who will win in the election actually before the voting is being done. So, so it means that the public is relatively open with the researcher. So the researcher is also relatively accurate in terms of the way taking the sample and representative in terms of the numbers of the panel, etc. And this is the latest election in Indonesia so far. First, high voter engagement, and you can see from 78 somethings into 80 somethings in Indonesia, the participation is quite high. Inclusivity and diversity is also we have a very high and very inclusive, and there is a free, there is uh, uh, no issues in the not really big an issue in terms of the way we run the elections. And the challenge for us is on the digital challenge, because with so many archipelago, we are really having a challenge. The second one is on the cyber security, because as we know that the cyber security now is becoming an issue, not only in the government, but also on the business as well, especially for the financial business, banking, etc. But with the election of this year, so far is the public is relatively satisfying with the way we run the process. Yes, there is some minor complaint. Definitely, KPU having some problem, but there is no major issues so far. In conclusion, Indonesia is really able to transform from autocratic and into democratic countries. However, we have some what we call some issues that we might need to improve, especially on the educations, and the second one is on adaptation, time to time between city and rural. Sometimes there is a gap. Transparency and public trust. Sometimes the KPU or General Election Commission is not really being trusted by the public. This is also another issues. And the new challenge is on the logistic and cybersecurity. But in the future vision, so it's basically we may need to reform on the civic engagement, improve on the voter access, and the technology that we might need to upgrade, and then implementation based on the technology and also the network that is still in progress. Doesn't mean that it's perfect, but so far we have a very good election for this year. Thank you. This is coming from Indonesia.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with this, I guess that all our 5 presentations are done, and the floor is now open, Sania, for the question answer session. So maybe you should take over from here, and then we can call it a day. There is one question in the text from Garima, which is asking, are there any reasons for more voting turnout of women than men in India, and are these trends being observed in other neighboring countries? So I can answer only for the India, and the rest of the colleagues can answer for a respective country on the female turnout. I think, Garima, the female turnout started going up in the last particular decade or so. It is cumulative of multiple things. Probably education levels have gone up. There is a lot of campaign and effort by the Election Commission. But the turning point probably was the Nirbhaya case and the following. Those who are not aware, Nirbhaya was the name given to a girl who was brutally gang raped and eventually lost her life in 2012 in Delhi, national capital Delhi, and which kind of created a lot of uprising across India against rape and harassment of females. And millions were on the street literally after that, and that eventually led to Parliament passing a law for capital punishment, particularly if in the case of rape and murder, where it is lost life. So I think post 2012, a lot of female advocacy and that has happened, and the youngsters, particularly young females, have started coming out big time in that. From the migration pattern, Garima, I can't say because we know the seasonal migrants are very different from other operational migrants, and seasonal migration is more among the males and less among the females. So there has to be a much, because these high turnout of females is being observed across India, across the board, across party line, across education, income groups. So the turnout of female as a class is going up. And this has coincided with the uprising of people on the street after Nirbhaya that has happened. So I would like to say that it has changed in the last 10 to 15 years, and it's a welcome change. I think Saidul and Bilal, if you can tell us if you are observing a higher female turnout in recent years or not, and what could be the reasons in your country, Saidul. Unmute. Sadul, you need to unmute.
Yeah, for Bangladesh, female turnout is always very high in the election, especially in the rural area. So it happens in all the elections. But virtually there was no election in last one decade, almost a decade. So female turnout was very low because people don't want to go out for election, which does not make any sense.
Sadul, just one question, a follow-up on that. Do you also think that Bangladesh happens to be the only country that we discussed today where two women leaders were actually loggerheads? The top position of both the parties were with the two female candidates. So it happens to be a very unique country where the seat of power in democratic Bangladesh has happened only among two females so far.
Two men, yes, correct. That's correct.
So
it is very unique. It's
very
very
unique.
unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that could be one of the reasons also that females have, under the two female prime ministerial candidates, have voted?
No, it was happens with the male candidates also when the election was held comparatively less corrupted, because in Bangladesh there were three regimes. In fact, one was the military government, two successive military government. One was General Ziaur Rahman and another is General Ershad. During that time, there was some election, although those are also biased election with lots of vote rigging, but comparatively election was very, people was participating more than 70% in the election. So female voter was there also.
Bilal, any data points from your side on this issue? Bilal, your chance. Not getting any voice from Bilal, or is it only I am not getting any voice? I can see our President Robert Chung and President-elect Christian has also joined us. If they are available, would love to have a couple of words from both of you, Robert and Christian, any one of you two. Robert, if you are there, would love to hear from you.
Yes, I am here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, Robert. Much appreciated.
Not at all. I didn't expect to speak, but I love to really hear all these discussions about the Asian elections. And this is really a very important election years, and it strikes my mind that a lot of electoral dynamics, which is happening in Asia now, would be very much applicable to our discussion next year in St. Louis. I remember Yash, you mentioned this gender issue, which actually turned the whole election situation. I think there are bound to be many important critical issues in various countries, which really make a lot of difference in the electoral process. So I would really love to see this discussion moving on. And obviously, I see a lot of friends in the webinar, and I'm very glad to see all of you. So great, great work. Thank you, every one of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robert. Christian, any words from your side?
Yes. Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful presentation. And it's amazing how many million people in Asia, Indonesia, India, etc., voted this year. So it's a big year for global elections. It would be great to talk in America when we meet in the US about patterns of elections in Asia. I was very impressed by two predictors, one gender and the second one age. Young people seem to have changed. So it's very interesting to see why young people are having a higher turnout in some Asian elections than before. So what mobilized them to join in, to participate? So for me, this was very interesting and in a way new, because in Europe, we noticed that young people tend to vote less. This is an interesting trend, which is not visible in Europe so far. But altogether, I thank all the speakers for their brilliant presentations. And for me, many new insights have materialized, and I'm very grateful for you to chair the panel and for all the panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. And may I just make a request that probably this opens up, similar kind of other chapters have come up with the election analytical, or wrap up of this year. Robert, if possible, I would request to have a good plenary next year in our WAPOR annual, where, different regions can come on the same stage and some kind of lesson learned and the kind of things which were the common throughout the globe and which were distinctive throughout the globe in different regions. It would be a very nice panel to have, after a historic year of elections. It would be fitting if WAPOR annual also has a plenary purely dedicated to lessons learned from elections in the last year.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the suggestion. Christine, our new president, is listening, and Tim is also listening, I believe. So I'm quite sure that this will happen, because St. Louis, the main focus is really on election of 2024. So I guess we will be seeing lots of different experiences in different regions of the world, in different countries. Probably there will be panels, but I'm not quite sure whether it will be differentiated by region or by, let's say, different degrees of development of a country or whatever it is. But I'm quite sure that what is discussed today would definitely find its way to the St. Louis Global Conference. I would love to hear more development of the observations that the panelists today has made, and of course, how that would be reflected globally in other regions as well. So yes, great suggestion, Yash. I'm sure it will happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And just one line of thanks to Bilal, because this entire panel was Bilal's idea, and he had kind of taken a lot of effort to actually organize and put all of us in place. So thank you, Bilal. I mean, you are the next generation, so please take more of the seat. Keep on troubling all of us. We would be more than happy to be troubled. Thank you so much. Senia, floor is all yours to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yashwant. I would like to thank you first of all, for moderating today's webinar, Bilal for organizing, and all panelists for your excellent presentations. It has really been a very rich, comprehensive content, and I think we all learned many interesting insights about the elections in Asia. They are not always on the news in Europe or in the States. They are sometimes overshadowed by other pending global issues. And it was really a unique opportunity for all of us to learn more about what is happening in Asia, how people vote, and what are the social demographic groups that go to elections. So thank you very much. This video from this webinar will be published in the next few hours on our YouTube channel, and then you can share it with your colleagues. So if they had no chance to attend the webinar today because of the time difference or other commitments, they can watch it afterwards, and it is available for unlimited time online. Thank you all attendees for joining us today. Please follow our newsletter and updates about the next webinars. The next will be already likely in January. And I remind everyone that the call for papers for our next year's conference of WAPOR that will take place between May 12 and 15 in St. Louis, United States, in conjunction with the WAPOR annual conference, is still open. So if you have not done it yet, please go online and submit your abstract. We would really love to see you in St. Louis and also listen to your presentation in person. Thank you very much and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.